By the way, this is a prelude, so you can talk. The show hasn't started yet. We're the warm up act. So.
Background music. Oh, you're funny.
Here's a song from Jason Mraz called "Living in the Moment." If this life is one act, why do we lay all these traps? We put them right in our path when we just want to be free. I will not waste my days making up all kinds of ways to worry about all the things that will not happen to me. And so I just let go of what I know I don't know, and I know I'll only do this by living in the moment, living my life easy and breezy, with peace in my mind, with peace in my heart, peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home, living in the moment. I'm letting myself off the hook for things that I've done. I let the past go past, and now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, and I believe this way can be the same for everyone. And if I fall asleep, I know you'll be the one who'll always remind me to live in the moment, living my life easy and breezy, with peace in my mind, got peace in my heart, got peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I can't walk through life facing backwards. I have tried more than once to just make sure, but I was denied. Future I was searching for, I spun around and searched no more. By living in myself off the hook for my life done, I let the past go past, and now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, and I believe this way could be the same for everyone. I'm letting myself off the hook for things I've done. I let my past go past, and now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of thoughts that do not make me strong, and wherever I'm going, this way should be the same for everyone. Just living in the moment.
Thank you. Well, that was nice. We had a concert before the concert. I was just noticing, as our slides came through, we are talking about peace and justice and love today. Monday was the recognition of the civil rights movement and hopefully some advancements that we have made in Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So we're actually maybe a little behind schedule, or maybe in the universal flow, right and perfect. But I'm going to ask Rob if he'll put up this slide, and together will we start our morning with these words. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. So as you can see, unity also recognizes what is happening in the world, but they've not always been as illuminated as we might have hoped. So I looked, and I shared with you before, I'm kind of going back for tidbits of Unity history, so you'll actually have a little idea about what we stand for, how we've gotten to where we are, maybe a little bit about our history, the founders, and some of the original speakers that came together that is now in what Unity is. So what I would like to share with you, we have a wonderful author, Neil Vall, I believe made his transition 2 years ago, and his book, The Unity Movement. So I want to bring to you that Unity wasn't always perfect. As we are growing and developing ourselves as individuals, when a new idea is introduced to us, sometimes we're a little slow at catching on. And sometimes that ego gets in the way, and it is so easy to stay where we are comfortable, where what we've always done is very familiar. And when someone introduces something new to us, we might feel resistance, and we're slow to change. Even if it's for our higher good, we're slow to change. So I wanted to share what happened at the Village right as the time of the Civil Rights Movement was happening. While blacks were drawn to the Unity teaching until the mid-1960s, Unity School itself made this very difficult for them to participate. Unity rhetoric supported equality. Charles, in a speech, declared, "We see no separation in color, in race and sect, creed, anything." This is 1927. "We are all one in spirit." However, the school followed the segregation policies of the South in dealing with those who came to Kansas City to study. The Unity Training School allowed blacks into classes and workshops, but refused them accommodation on Unity Farm. Housing was available for whites only. Owing to the limited living accommodations at Unity Farm, it was said in 1934, it will be necessary for all colored students who register for classwork to live in Kansas City. Now, as you can imagine, we are talking from this wonderful, beautiful place in that heart-filled space that says everyone has a right to be here, that we have a right to share at our own common tables, and yet they had this beautiful vegan restaurant that you might have heard about in Kansas City proper, and black people are not allowed to eat there. So there was a lot of growth and development that was open for Unity to begin to partake in. You cannot preach one thing and do another. Unity's segregation policy came under attack in 1934 from The Call, a Kansas City newspaper. Unity School had agreed to host a meeting at Unity Farm, but The Call reported that Negro delegates had been Jim Crowed. They were given meals at Unity Dining Room but refused rooms for the night, while white delegates offered to share their rooms with blacks. Unity managers refused to allow it. As a result, Negro delegates, totaling about half a dozen, withdrew from the conference. The Call interviewed Lowell Fillmore. Remember, he's the oldest son, and after Charles, he took on the presidency and position of CEO of Unity. And this is what Lowell said, although he was very slow to talk. "You do not quite understand. We are feeling our way along. This is Missouri, and the Missouri people are not educated to the point as yet where they will accept Negroes on a base of equality." Now, those who wanted to study the Fillmore principles, who wanted to look at truth in such a way of true guidance, we understand that many people are attracted to the movement because Myrtle Fillmore was able to take the truth of God into her body and heal herself. And this applied to many people. The attraction of these teachings came in all sizes, colors, shapes. And they said, if this is true for one, this must be true for all. In the 1950s, there was a beautiful student who showed up on campus, and she herself was looking for a healing. She'd been given a diagnosis of 6 months. The story is, as she looked at her mother's coffee table, there was a daily word from Unity on there. And she said, so if this is true, let me go study with these people. Her name is Johnny Coleman, one of the first black women to be a student on the campus and insist that she would be able to spend the night on that campus. Now, at first, she told everybody, I can't go to Kansas City and drive my car in the rain and be stuck in a ditch and walk all these miles, 15 miles away. You have got to make room for me or we don't serve the same God. The fellow students rose up with her and started a petition. The dawn was beginning. The dawn was beginning. Johnny Coleman was such a direct factor in how Unity saw through new eyes, how Unity stepped above and beyond what the status quo was. And we have to be that daring and that adventuresome at times, that no matter what the regular folks are doing, we have to step into that truth that we understand is God. And so in doing so, not only did she graduate, become an ordained Unity minister, eventually she became president of the association. Talk about stepping into your power, not allowing someone else to tell you, no, you can't do this, not allowing society to predicate what is yours to do and what is not yours to do. But I will tell you, in the 1970s, about 1974, Johnny Coleman came with a difference of opinions of how Unity was managing certain areas, and most of that was around race. So she separated from Unity. She was in Chicago and built a ministry of 20 different churches. Her own ministry had 4,000 people every day in her congregation. So things do change. And sometimes we look and say, this fits for a while for me, and then sometimes it changes. But she held true for her what she believed to be the Unity principles. So we look at this as sometimes we're slow to change. Sometimes what we hear we're not quite ready to digest. And sometimes we are the change maker. That we forge ahead when the rest of the people around us say, ooh, not so fast. Because if you remember, very recently in this whole Black Lives Matter, I have a millennial daughter. Now, so many people have talked and been educated and talked some more. And she said, Mom, my generation's over this talking. We're ready to burn it to the ground and start over. Now, that's a little dramatic for some of us in the baby boomer generation. But there are people coming up through the millennial generation and the Gen X, and they're ready to make drastic changes. How open are we? How open are we to any new ideas? Especially if it's for the greater good of the consciousness of society. So I'm going to invite you to close those outer eyes. Peace, justice, love. When you go into your mind's eye and you think about possibly one individual, maybe more than one, that has entered your sphere, and for having known them, you were introduced to something new, maybe something that you had never explored before. And your life has been enriched by this new awareness. We're not creating anything new. We may, however, be changing that which no longer serves us. So we open the windows of the soul, our mind's eye, to new ideas. And if not new ideas, just another way of being, a greater awareness. So that as we step out into the world, we are the change makers. We are the healers that we've been calling for and on. We are that which we wish to see in the world. And sometimes it comes with strife. And sometimes we have to stretch and become uncomfortable. And in that comes our growth. And that we, as a group consciousness, come together and say, yes, I am here to serve the greater good. I am here to be an instrument for peace. Breathe that in. And gently release it out. I am here to be an instrument of peace. Amen. I'd like to ask Miss Marilyn, Reverend Marilyn, if she'll come forward. She has an outreach project so that we can better and help our community.
Ladies and gentlemen, tell you what I'm going to do. For one thin dime, 1/10 of a dollar, I'm making you a deal, an offer you cannot refuse. I know when I come up here these days, it always seems like I want money. And when you give money, you get the satisfaction of knowing that you've helped somebody. But this time, not only do you get the satisfaction of helping others, but you also get to enjoy a special treat. The Salvation Army in Clearwater has created and been running a fundraiser for well over 15 years where you purchase a meat pie known in the British circles as a pasty, and they get the money and you get the food. That's a deal. So we're going to order the meat pies this Sunday and next Sunday, and then we will have them here frozen for pickup on the second Sunday of February. So today and next Sunday, I will be in the foyer to answer questions and take orders. And of course, the price is more than that thin dime I talked about. It's $6.50 each, and you get a mouthful of tasty pasty. So if you will see me after service, we will make a deal. Thank you.
And won't you please stand and join us in singing Sacred Love?
You are sacred love, sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God's sacred love is all that you are. You are blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace, God blessed peace is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are deepest joy is all that you are. You are deepest joy, God, deepest joy is all that you are. You are sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God's sacred love is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. We are sacred love is all that we are. We are sacred love is all that we are. We are sacred love is all that we are. We are sacred love is all that we are.
Beautiful. You may be seated.
Do you remember George Carlin? Well, he tells a story where he enters a bookstore and he asks the clerk, could you please show me the self-help section? And the clerk says, well, if I were to show you, wouldn't that defeat your purpose? Well, self-care is self-help. And Reverend Tracey is facilitating a unity class called Self-Care on Tuesdays. So if your life is like a fast-moving train, you have a choice to take a break, and you can take your break on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock to 3:30, beginning next Tuesday for 6 Tuesdays. Now let's take a look at the mission statement. This mission statement tells of our awareness and respect for the various ways humans express themselves. The mission statement is to advance well-being by sharing compassion and inclusiveness with integrity and spirituality. I thrive when my thoughts and words reflect my divine inheritance. When I listen to my inner conversation and recurring thoughts, I may hear fear-based, limiting talk, or I may hear words that encourage me to live joyfully and confidently. The choice is mine. Through my divine gift of power, I take command of my thoughts and my life. I release thoughts of powerlessness, and as I do, my negative self-talk diminishes. With my thoughts, words, and actions, I affirm my divine inheritance of faith, wisdom, understanding, and strength. The power to live a full life is mine. I embrace insights I've gained through experience. I own my mistakes without shame or embarrassment. I am eager to learn. I am willing to try new things and stretch myself. I thrive when the power of my thoughts and words reflect my faith, wisdom, understanding, and strength.
Father, I would see, so help me look for Christ in everyone I meet. I would hear, so help me listen for your still small voice come from within, and let it heal me and fill me with light. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done. I will be your hand in action, singing songs of love and joy and peace, and let it heal me and fill me with light. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done. Father, I would see, so help me look for Christ in everyone I meet.
That was beautiful. That just takes us back to the root of unity, which began with healing. So let's take a few moments and find that sacred space within your heart. I invite you to close those outer eyes. I invite you to take a nice breath in and release. so gently. Do it again. A nice breath in and release so gently. And for the power of 3, one more time. And release so gently. Feel your feet firmly on the ground. Allow your hips to be settled in the chair that is supporting you right here, right now. I invite you to focus and stay in this present moment. You hear Terrell on the guitar. You might hear the water behind me. You hear the resonance in my voice. You are called to be the caretaker of your own body, your own mind, and your own spirit. And you come from that same holy place where all of creation has formed. So within your body, I invite you to take a scan. Let's begin at the tip of your head, just above your head, that crown chakra space. Like going through a car wash, I invite you just to imagine this scan starting right there at the tip of your head and gently coming past your eyes and your nose, your mouth, your throat, your place of power, your shoulders that may feel like they hold the weight of the world. Maybe just move them around just a little bit. Come down to your chest and your belly, that place of intuitiveness, that insight, that place that knots up when you're unsure and relaxes when you're breathing deeply. We come to our hips and our groundedness, the beginning of creation, and down to our knees. Let that scan go all the way to the floor. Notice where you felt something not quite right. Holy, to be whole, the wholeness of spirit, the wholeness within our body. Find that area that needs a little gentle extra care today. Focus your energy to that spot. See those cells touching one another, vibrating, sending energy throughout the body. Know that in each cell is a message that is passed to another. And picture it lovingly, gently in your mind. Knowing that what might feel out of whack can be gently brought into center. And maybe it takes a light color. Do you see the green of the heart chakra surrounding these cells? Do you see pink and red because we call that love? Do you see yellow, the communication power? I call in these words as you will talk to the cells in your body. My body is a vessel of life and energy. God is my vitality. Centered in God life, I am energized and renewed. Grateful for the harmony of my body's systems and functions. I bless my body into heightened health and well-being. I heal any concern about my body as I am centered in God life. So let's take a moment and allow that God life to rejuvenate us, to replenish us, to be that sincere holiness in the silence. I invite you to breathe into those cells that were not feeling whole. And I bring in these words. Realizing my divine nature, I am healed. I deny any belief in limited health or well-being. Instead, I turn my mind toward the knowledge of my divine nature. God life is my life. I claim vitality and wholeness, strength and well-being. I heal by realizing my true nature and by living fully, starting with this moment, right here, right now, in the consciousness of my prayer, to the well-being and holiness of my own body. And for this, we are truly grateful. And so it is, as we let it be. Amen.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
You know, our musicians have pretty much full autonomy to do whatever they want up here. And sometimes I make a little suggestion, and imagination was one. I've heard Terrell do it before, so thank you. Thank you very much. So just imagine if we truly could look at each other with the eyes of God. It doesn't matter where we came from. Doesn't matter what our journey has been up to this very point. What if we could just see each other with the eyes of love, fully accepting who you are in this very now moment, not holding anyone aside, that you live a different lifestyle than maybe I do, that you've had different experiences than I've had. Instead, I just look at you and I see that pure spirit of light, of love. For that's what we call the God energy. Law, light, love, all of that. And we're not following something that's outside of us, but rather we're going inside, tapping into that which has always existed. And then we're bringing it forward to a deeper understanding. This year, I call our theme Pattern Interrupt Us. It's just we've done the same thing over and over, and it's probably served us fairly well. But what if you were open to changing just one little thing? Maybe in the entire 365 days. There's just one little thing you're willing to shift so that you can live at even a higher consciousness than where you do right now. And if you get really bold, maybe once a month, 12 things. Maybe that will remind you of the disciples and all the different energies they carried and the mess-ups they did over and over again. As the master teacher said, I will not be with you forever. You're going to have to learn how to do some of these things on your own. And we hear this little story of the man who is really upset with the world. And he just doesn't understand how there's so much hatred and war and fighting. And he gets down on his knees and he begs and he pleads with this God that he thinks is out there and says, what are you doing about it? And God says, a lot. Well, who are you going to send to save us? And he said, I sent you. So think about it. As we know the Jesus story, he came as a babe in swaddling clothes. He didn't come as this knight in shining armor. He didn't come as this prince that owned a great deal of wealth. He came as someone that people could relate to. So when we go through our own journey, we are people that others can relate to. I took a class right before becoming your senior minister, and it was called White Fragility, and it was rough. It allowed me and the classmates I was with to really look at our own unconscious biases from where we grew up. And let me tell you, my mother was Atlanta, Southern bred and Southern born. Now, I had the great gracious privilege of being in Colorado for 6 years, but the people who came before you share their ideas with you, consciously and unconsciously. And I will admit, when I was in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and I went to school in Stillwater, I arrived as this bright-eyed little college student in the only dorm that's left, because I didn't know better, being that I just moved my senior year. No air conditioning, and let me tell you, Oklahoma gets hot. I have said there are 2 places I will not minister, New York City and the entire state of Oklahoma. So I show up at Oklahoma State. My very first day on campus, I'm unpacking all my suitcases. My dad has run off on his honeymoon with a woman 4 years older than I am. Life is not feeling great. And all of a sudden, I see this tall woman. What do we attract to us? When we walk into a building, when you are looking at people who look like you, there might be some familiarity, and it might be a comfort level. So I see this beautiful woman named Amanda. Again, you know, we're 18 years old, starry-eyed, coming into a college campus. We're going to be the Cowpokes, not the Sooners, just in case y'all don't know what we were. And so I arrive at the campus, and she's over there unpacking her bags, and I walk in her room, and there's a picture of a black girl on the dresser. Did I tell you my mother's from Atlanta? Didn't say a word, but I was not evolved. She looked at me and she said, my grandfather was part of the KKK. He's rolling in his grave. So that's where we started at 18 years old. Somewhere in my 40s, somewhere going through these beautiful teachings of unity, somewhere after I had been teaching our uniteens, we had a very wonderful mixed group, not only of ideas, but colors in my uniteens. One of the young men I practically adopted as my second, third son. His mother's a dynamic, fabulous woman from Haiti. She and her brother actually escaped through mountaintops to get to America and eventually became an American citizen about 50 years old. I would go around and talk at different Unity churches, and she would sing. She has a beautiful voice. We went on a retreat together. It's the first time that I had a black person in the bedroom with me. Open eyes, open heart. What is the message that we know and we've learned as we've been growing up? And what can it shift and change to now, no matter how old you are? How open are you to hear new ideas? How open are you to have new experiences? When I was looking at what this topic might be about today, this peace and love and justice, we usually go back to Martin Luther King. Did you know that he met Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk? They had breakfast together. And Thich Nhat Hanh looked at him in 1966 and said, I need your help. There is this war called the Vietnam War going on, and you are for civil rights, and you are for mankind and humanity, and I need your help. I need you to take a stand with me against this war. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. was busy doing his own stuff, right? Know what he was doing in 1966? Well, part of that was the March of Montgomery. Part of that was boycotting the buses. Part of that was going around the country and giving speeches. And now this little Vietnamese monk said, I need you to take it a step further. How big is your consciousness? What can you do for the world? And he did take a stand against the Vietnam War. And what Thich Nhat Hanh said is, I'm so glad we had a chance to have that conversation because through his eyes, I got to know Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not up here telling you what you have to believe or not believe. I'm just saying through the eyes of love we share with one another. And that's what they did. And 2 years later, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Two beautiful, great lights came together and held a place for humanity that was light and peaceful and shared a place of non-violence. So I go back into our Bible stories, and I go back into it where Jesus says, turn the other cheek. And I thought, man, you smack me, I'm going to smack you back. That used to be an eye for an eye. Don't you remember that in the Old Testament? Who do you think you are? And then I learned, if you were to smack somebody back in the day, you can't use your left hand. Why? It was dirty. It was used for bathroom privileges. So if you're going to smack somebody with your right hand, it's actually going to wind up being like an insult versus a fisticuff. And what that meant to them in the day was the insult you can turn away from. You can turn the other cheek to the insult, the nonviolent communication. Do you know it was said, so if they ask you for your cloak, give them that and your tunic. And I thought, so I don't really relate to that. Not too many of us, well, I do like cloaks. But I wasn't really sure what that meant. But the poorest of poor people usually only had one article of clothing. So if you got put in front of a judge and they were going to take everything from you because you didn't pay taxes or whatever was up, it said, give them your cloak, but give them your tunic too. You would have been stark naked in front of the justices. And that was illegal. So if they had taken everything you had, they themselves would have gone to jail. The point being, how can you be creative and be in a place of nonviolence when you're looking for change? So was Jesus one of the first advocates of nonviolent communication as an agent for change? Can we see it in that kind of a modality? that he knew what Roman law was, and he definitely knew what the Hebrew law was. How do you bring them both together in a way that he can be, that we can be, the change makers, the ones we want to see? What tools do we have at our disposal? So he didn't say, sit there like a doormat. Do y'all remember, what is the country song Kenny Rogers used to sing? And he talks about the young man who has this beautiful girlfriend, wife, coward of the county. Do y'all remember that song? And the coward of the county, and he's got to turn his cheek and turn his cheek and turn his cheek. But one day, those boys come in there after, I think, Betsy. Is that her name? The sweet little girl that he was dating. And he'd had enough. He'd had enough. We're not being told to stay still. We're being told to use our voice. Your throat chakra is your place of power. Your place of power. Do you feel it? Like you can do this high pitch up here. We have some beautiful songs that do that. And then you get in that gut, that intuitive place in your gut, and you bring forth what that truth is. To stand up not only for yourself, but your brother, your sister beside you. That's what I believe Martin Luther King Jr. and Thich Nhat Hanh were doing. They were standing up together in a most powerful way through peace. It could look like demonstrations. It can be writings. It can be a voice. We had a very interesting conversation last Thursday with a group of Eastern Seaboard ministers. Some of the most dynamic teachers. They've written books. They've been preaching for 20 years. They've been in the Unity Movement 40 years. All this knowledge, all this wisdom. And one of them was saying, well, I really wish the big headquarters would do blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, so what do we teach? In Unity, we say, ask for what you want. You got to tell the universal flow what you want. I said, did you tell them that you want blah, blah, blah? Well, no. I said, well, how do they know? And everybody knows the biggest fire gets put out first, right? So if there's 25 ministers on this call and you want something to happen, what do you think 25 letters will do? It'll at least get the ball turning, right? It may not make everything happen, but the more you pile on, the more people go, ooh, this is an awareness out there. One lady, Johnny Coleman, made a huge shift, but she didn't do it by herself. There were students in her class that started a petition. How do we make our voices heard? We gather together as a group, and things that are important to us, we share it. Just like, in case you haven't marked your calendars, on March 5th, the first Sunday in March, we're going to have our annual meeting. You want us and the board to hear you, be there. Share with us. This is how we are agents for change. That we start in a way that is peaceful and growing. For the things that are important to you, if you keep them closed up and quiet inside, who's going to know about it? And if you stew, who's going to know about it? But that energy attracts. Like energy attracts. So open your mind, open your heart, see what's in there that calls you into some form of movement. It could be as easy as, where's Marilyn? Our little pies. You know, that's an outreach. You're going to get a little piece of pie, and they're going to get $6, essentially. So you have the choice at all times, how big do you want to play in this universe? Because as Marianne Morrissey said, it doesn't serve you to play small. It is not our smallness that we're afraid of. It is our greatness. And how does that feel resonating inside of you? The yeah buts, those are just excuses. When you take a stand, there might be somebody right next to you who feels so close to that energy. And maybe it has to be fine-tuned. But we're never going to know if you don't bring it forward. And I think it's right and perfect. The divine ideas are right and perfect when it's reaching out to a consciousness that makes it better for everyone else. That makes it better for everyone else. So don't be silent. Bring your ideas forward. And let's see as a community what's ours to create as we're entering this pattern, interrupt, us. Can we say it together? Pattern, interrupt, us. What in your mind plays out that I might like to change this year? Or I might just like a deeper awareness this year? Or maybe I'd like to see it manifested. And how does that come forward? So let's take this into prayer. In this beautiful consciousness of master teachers, of those who have come before us, served us as humanity in ways that create a greater understanding, that each and every one of us is here for a reason. We have a purpose. We are divine spiritual beings having a human experience. We open our arms for love and hugs to better understand one another as we understand the godness coming in and through each one of us. We are here to bless and be blessed. We are here to bless and be blessed. And for this, we are so grateful. We are so grateful. And so it is. Amen.
We believe that our gifts bring into consciousness the law of giving and receiving. We are grateful for the tithes that flow to our spiritual community from online through PayPal, our consistent giving program, on Sunday mornings, and throughout the week as love offerings. Our contributions to our spiritual enlightenment enable the mighty flow of prosperity manifesting in our lives. Here we go. Let us repeat the following blessing together. I give freely and fearlessly, fulfilling the law of giving and receiving.
We're going to do maybe a familiar song by Cat Stevens called Peace Train. And if you know the words, you can sing along.
Now I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has become. Oh, I've been smiling lately, thinking about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's going to come, 'cause out on the edge of darkness there rides the peace train. Peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Peace train sounding loud, ride on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah, come on, peace train. Peace train, holy roller, everyone jump on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah, come on, peace train. Now get your bags together, go and bring your friends too, 'cause it's getting nearer, soon it will all be with you. Now come and join the living, it's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer, soon it will all be true. Oh, peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah, come on, peace train. Now I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides a peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah, come on, peace train. Yeah, peace train, holy roller, everyone jump on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah, come on, peace train. It's the peace train. in the light, in the light, in the light. You are walking in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God.
So we have some of our teens getting ready to go through leadership training. So I want you to know there's some interest in serving as leaders in the unity movement in the teenage world. So if we could just shower a little blessing, just rub your hands together and just pour it all over our teenagers that we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you. Thank you very much.